Hello, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to explore the basic building blocks of every spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel. We'll be looking at rows, columns, and cells. Once you understand how these work, navigating Excel becomes much easier and you'll be able to enter and organize data confidently. We will also be learning about cell reference. We've talked about that in the previous class and what an active cell is. So let's get started. So what is a worksheet? Now, when you open Excel, the last grid, which is this old box you are seeing here, which we talked about in the previous class, is referred to as a worksheet. Now, a worksheet is made up of your rows, your columns, and your cells. These three elements forms the structure of every spreadsheet you create. Think of a worksheet as a giant digital table where information is organized and neatly set in rows and columns. So let's quickly talk about what row is. Now, rows are horizontal lines that runs from left to right. So you have this horizontal line now. For example, this one, it runs from left down to your right hand side. And each row has a number. So as you can see on my left hand side, I have different numbers, which is used to represent each row I have on Microsoft Excel. So you can see 1 is indicating row 1, 2 is indicating row 2, 3 is indicating row 3. So this is how you can be able to then differentiate what the different rows you have and how they work. So what are rows used for? Rows usually hold individual record or entity. For example, I want to have an individual record of a staff. So let's say the staff name is John. John stays in Lagos, and sorry if I'm spelling my Lagos properly, Lagos, and John earns a salary of 50,000 naira. So on row 1, I'm having a record about John. So rows hold individual records or entity of a particular person or an individual. So that's what row is. Now that you understand what a row is, let's talk about what a column is. Now, columns are vertical lines that runs from top to bottom. So rows runs from left to right, columns run from top to bottom, and they are identified using alphabet. So you have A, which is representing one column you have B, which is representing another column you have, and you have C, which is representing another column you have. So just understand that rows are horizontal lines, while columns are vertical lines. Rows is represented using numbers, while columns is represented using alphabet. Now, when you combine these two together, when you combine a column and a row together, you now have what we call a cell. So for example, when I combine the column E with the row 10, I now have a cell on E10. So this is then called E10. So this is a cell that then has a cell reference, or which we call a cell name, called E10. It means it's on column E, row 10. So that's how you can be able to identify cells in Microsoft Excel. Then again, there's also what we call an active cell. Because I have a lot of cells here, the one I am on currently is called an active cell because this is the only cell I can then enter or input data. For example, I can enter Nigeria as a data. Then I can go to a different cell, for this case, A14. I can enter boy as a data. So A14 becomes an active cell. This is the cell I am actively working on, and this is the cell I can only input data. Now, in the previous class, we talked about the different tabs you have and the different section or interface of your Excel. We talked about your formula bar. As you can see, when I am on cell A14, on my formula bar, I'm having boy. When I'm on cell A1, on my formula bar, I'm having John. When I go to F11, I'm having Nigeria. So I explained in the previous class, you see whatever you typed in an active cell on your formula bar. So that's what an active cell is, and that's also what a cell is. A cell is the combination of your column and your row. Then rows are identified using numbers and they move from your left to your right, while columns are identified using alphabet and they move from your top to your bottom. Now that you understand these 4 different concepts in Excel, it is now much more easier for you to then arrange your data confidently in Microsoft Excel. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class.